Marsha P. Johnson was an American gay liberation activist and a self-identified drag queen. She was born in August 1945 and was one of the most important people involved in the Stonewall riots in 1969. Johnson was a black trans woman and a founding member of the Gay Liberation Front, as well as a co-founder of the gay and transvestite advocate organization STAR, along with her friend Sylvia Rivera. STAR stood for Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries, and just a note, we don't use the word transvestite anymore. Nowadays, we just say trans or transgender. For most of her life, she was homeless and a sex worker. When asked about what the P in her name stood for, she said it meant pay it no mind. She was a performer with the drag performance troupe Hot Peaches.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am say a poem for you called So. You can count your karma if Nirvana is your goal. You can shake and you can rattle. You can rock and roll. You can be a Clark Kent or a Lois or an Alice down a hole. You can be a vampire on a mountain with a heart of stone black coal. You can be a leather angel on a sleek black Harley bike. Or a redhead screaming faggot or a dazzling giant. You can lock yourself in a closet in a fine meat stove, but it really doesn't matter if you ain't got soul.
The Stonewall Inn was previously only a bar for gay men, and Johnson was one of the first drag queens to go to the Stonewall Inn after they began allowing women and drag queens inside. Early morning, June 28, 1969, the Stonewall Uprising occurred. She was with other members of the queer community in the Stonewall bar. 2 cops had been undercover and were going to arrest people, but Johnson decided she had had enough and threw a shot glass, breaking a mirror. That night and the next night would come to be known as the Stonewall Riots. She protested against oppressive policing and advocated on behalf of sex workers, prisoners, and people with HIV and AIDS.
40 gay people had them buried in the basement, and it took them to catch 40 people. He killed 40 people before they even caught him.
Charlie did.
I said, darling, if you're straight, you only gotta kill one and they catch you. When you're gay, it just takes forever. I mean, I don't think they do a good investigation on a gay murder.
In 1972, Johnson and Rivera established the Star House, which was a shelter for gay and trans street kids, which was one of the first safe spaces for transgender and homeless youth in the country. They paid the rent for it with money they made themselves while they were sex workers. In 1973, Johnson and Rivera were banned from participating in the Gay Pride Parade by the Gay and Lesbian Committee who, quote, didn't want to give the marches a bad name by allowing drag queens. In response, they marched defiantly ahead of the parade. From 1987 to 1992, she was an AIDS activist with ACT UP, or the AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power. ACT UP was a group that worked to end the AIDS pandemic. Shortly after the 1992 Pride Parade, her body was discovered floating in the Hudson River with a massive head wound. Some thought she had committed suicide or had hallucinated due to mental illness, but her friends and family testified that she was not suicidal. In 2017, David France and Victoria Cruz made a documentary about Johnson. The Death and Life of Marsha P. Johnson is currently available on Netflix. The documentary follows some of Johnson's friends as they try to get the case of how she died reopened. She and Rivera are getting a monument in New York in recognition for all they did for LGBT rights and liberation.